So I like to take my flag wherever I can. Because I love coming to the tea parties, waving my flag that says extremist kind of to the rest of the world, but not to me. To me, it's freedom, just a notch below this one. I'm Jeff Smith. I've got a beautiful wife, Camille. I've got 3 kids, Samantha, Emery, and Miranda. They're 15, almost 16. 14 and 10. We live in Gilbert. We've lived here for about a little over 7 years now, and quite honestly, it's the longest I've lived anywhere in my life. And I'm an independent stock and options investor, and so doing that gives me a lot of flexibility. I was able to work from home, and frankly, we could kind of live, in any part of the country and do that. And we choose to stay here in Arizona. We really love it here. Great friends, great people. Frankly, I love the spirit of the independent spirit that is noticeably different here in Arizona from many other places that I've lived. I've lived East Coast, I've lived West Coast. We're going to enforce federal law, whether the feds will do it or not, and the state that says we're not going to change our clocks no matter what the other 49 states do. I think it's all it's just kind of indicative of that same independent streak that runs through people in this state, and I love it. Year and a half since Obama took office, I've been alarmed and outraged, like many people, at the dangerous direction that our elected leaders in Washington are taking. I saw the march toward socialism and redistribution of wealth, the terribly wrong-headed economic policies that our elected leaders are pursuing, the trampling of the Constitution, the rampant growth in the size and scope of the federal government, far beyond the limits of its constitutional authority. We need good people who understand the Constitution and hold to conservative values to really rescue this country, because our leaders are just taking us headlong over the brink. It's a Thelma and Louise moment, right? Like Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi joining hands and hitting the gas, and they're trying to send us over the cliff just as quickly as they can. So I'm running to stop socialism and redistribution of wealth. I'm running to defend the Constitution, individual liberties and states' rights, and I'm running to return the federal government to the limits of its constitutional authority. Go back in history a little bit. I like to go back to the year 1913. We might be able to choose a couple of different points to start charting how we got, to where we are now. But I look at 1913. Several really awful things happened in that year, unfortunately. We had Woodrow Wilson, the original progressive, in the White House, right? Who gave us the League of Nations and a whole bunch of other things. We got the 16th Amendment, which gave us the income tax, and many people I think walk around and just don't realize that for well over 100 years our country got along just fine without an income tax, right? Many people just believe it's always been there, it has to be there, and I don't believe that at all. But we got that with the 16th Amendment. We also got the 17th Amendment, same year, 1913, which gave us popularly elected senators, whereas previous to that they had been appointed by the states. And of course that wasn't an accident, it wasn't a mistake on the part of the Founding Fathers. That was intentionally done that way as a safeguard for states' rights. And we have lost that with the 17th Amendment, and that is something that I would favor a repeal of, absolutely. And then of course, the Federal Reserve, all right, kind of in the dark of night, right at the end of the year there, we got the Federal Reserve, and that's another institution that I think a lot of Americans just have always thought has always been there and has been critical for us to be able to handle our money and banking. So I kind of look at there, and from there you can really start to chart the progress and the rampant growth in the size and scope of the federal government, right? We had shortly thereafter World War I. It wasn't much longer. We had World War II, and we had the New Deal, right? Based on this flawed Keynesian idea that the government just spends money, we can We can spend our way out of a recession or a depression in that case. It didn't work. It only exacerbated the Great Depression. We had a Great Depression for approximately a decade. And it didn't need to be that way. You know what? We're repeating history right now. Our leaders right now are trying to follow that same flawed ideology. They think they're going to just print and spend their way out of this mess, and they're taking us in exactly the wrong direction. You know, we've gotten to the point where we are today, where our federal government is just this huge behemoth that just spends money like crazy. Corruption run rampant, and they've just gone so far beyond those enumerated powers that were in the Constitution that specifically say this is what the federal government can do, this is what they're supposed to do, and nothing else, right? Per the 10th Amendment, everything else is to be left to the states. No, this is not something that the federal government needs to be involved in, even though it may be a noble or a worthwhile cause. That's a point I want to make, right? There's lots of noble and worthwhile causes out there that I support, but it doesn't mean that the federal government has to be involved. You know, what does Jeff Smith stand for? He stands for getting government back to the limits of its constitutional authority.